Hi friends, how are you doing today? My name is Chelsea. Welcome to Little Mountain Ranch. I'm really happy to have you here in my greenhouse with me today. We have a big day on the ranch today. We are going to be starting to harden off seedlings. We are getting our meat chicks and our turkeys today. So I think I've ordered 10 turkeys, if I remember correctly, and 100 chicks. So we're getting those pens already. Dan picked up a pen for my sheep today, so a portable electric fencing system, which I'm really excited about because I'm going to be able to move them around to all the areas that are harder to get larger livestock in, but still grow lots of good grass. It went from being a really cold spring to summer overnight. We're supposed to hit 27 degrees Celsius today. I'll put the Fahrenheit on the screen for you. And yeah, it's like summer. So I have to get my button gear and get my garden ready because it is not ready at all. I wanted to send out a massive thank you to all of you who have purchased my digital cookbook. I'll put a link for it down in the show notes below if you haven't had a chance to check it out yet. But I've just been overwhelmed by the support and your kind words about it. I am also so grateful to all of you who have signed up to my membership community, which I opened up on Monday just a couple of days ago. I'm just overwhelmed by the response to it. Thank you so much. If you are interested in learning more about my membership community, I won't talk a ton about it right now, but I will put a link for you down in the show notes and you can just click on that and it will take you right to the sales page with all the information about it. So now we are going to get into the work of the day, and that is going to be to move all of my onions, I'll show you down here, to get all of these onion seedlings, my leeks over here, moved outside so they can start hardening off, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about my process for that in a sec. And then down here I have a whole bunch of brassicas and some peppers that I didn't end up potting up. So we'll throw them in the ground and see what happens. I have more brassicas over here. Some spinach will get outside and a weed. My potting soil this year, look at this potting soil. Can you see all of the weeds and grass that are coming up in there? Bizarre. I've never had that happen before. And this is the new potting soil that I bought to replace the first potting soil I used that was just awful. Some lettuce, some pak choi, some kale. My kale did not germinate great. Look at all this. All of these ones over here didn't come up at all, but there's a couple of kale plants. Need to get these beautiful ones hardened off. So these are giant marigolds. Some more brassicas over here. And all of my herbs and my flowers, I'm going to start hardening those off as well. All of the tomatoes and the peppers are going to be going right into my high tunnel, so I don't have to worry about getting them hardened off. Look at how much better those peppers are looking since I put them in the larger pots. And a few more brassicas. I use the north side of my greenhouse for hardening off, especially for the first 3 or 4 days or so. I just put them in the shade here, and then as the sun comes around, they get a little bit of sun, and then I slowly move them out until they're in the sun full time, and it usually takes a week or so to get them to that point. And I have all of these patio bricks right here from a patio that I took out that was up by the house. And I'm thinking of doing some kind of patio situation up over in this area. So pushing the sprout box. These are sprout box raised beds. I absolutely love them. They're so pretty. But I'm going to move that right back and then maybe put a little patio spot in front of it so that I can have somewhere to sit when I'm working out in the garden, because currently I don't. I do have some plants planted in the sprout box that I have over here. These are all snapdragons. So I'm just going to show you what happens when you don't harden things off properly. So can you see these white leaves? That's sun scald. And I did put these out here on a cloudy day, but I didn't harden them off first. They've been out here for, I think, 3 or 4 days now, so they'll be fine. All this new growth is acclimatized to the sun, but this is what happens when you put plants right from a greenhouse out into the sunshine. These are pretty frost hardy. That's why I decided to put them out here. They can handle this cold, so I think I'll also harden off the rest of the snapdragons and get them out into the garden. Can't wait till these bloom. Do any of you know what this little plant is right here, and right here? Its telltale giveaway, outside of the smell, is the fact that it has a square stem. This is a mint. And mint is actually super invasive in a lot of areas. It's not as invasive up here just because our winters get so cold, but it's very invasive in other areas. And my potting soil was absolutely full of it. I don't have any mint seed. I don't even own any mint seed. I planted a couple of mint plants that I had purchased from the nursery a few years ago. But yeah, all this mint seed in with the potting soil. So I don't know what's going on with potting soil this year. I know Jess from Roots and Refuge was talking about how she thought maybe it had to do with the fact that there are so many more gardeners now, and throughout COVID and all of that were buying potting soil. And maybe they're just trying to like push their products through so they have enough for the market right now, and cutting corners a little bit with things like invasive weed seeds in their potting soil. I actually had a picture sent from someone over on Instagram yesterday, and she found plastics, lots of plastics and even eggshells in her potting soil. And that was a different brand than both of the brands that I have used this year. So definitely keep an eye on your potting soil before you go put your plants in the ground, and make sure that there's not any invasive plants or weeds in there. This little one right here is a little petunia, and I actually have some petunias that are just about to flower. So I'm going to get these all put into their flower pots that are going to be going on my deck probably today, because they definitely need to get out of the cells they were in. I didn't have good germination, as you can see, with my petunias, but I have, I don't know, probably 30 of them or so. And these ones are wave petunias, so the big, beautiful ones that are very expensive to buy from the nursery. I think is $60 a flat to buy wave petunias here. I'm not sure what the price is in other places. Okay, let's get these onions moved outside. Oh, there's some more weeds in my onions. I'm not sure what those are. Not mint. Anyway, but on this tray I have early yellow, white sweet Spanish, yellow sweet Spanish, and they look pretty good. They do need to get in the ground though, because they're starting to get a little bit yellow. They need a little bit more nitrogen. These ones are red wing, a red onion that stores really well. And I did a whole bunch of Walla Walla onions, which aren't technically a good storage onion, but I am planning on freeze drying most of my onions this year. And so I'm not as worried about longevity and storage as I have been in years past. Right now, Harvest Right is having a huge sale on freeze dryers, $500 off, and they only run the sale twice a year. I think the last time they ran it was in November. So if you are in the market for a freeze dryer, now is a very good time to buy one. This was my first time starting leeks, and I should have started them several weeks before I did, maybe even a month before I did. And I could have definitely seeded them a lot more heavily, but they did come up, so that's good. Hardening off is my absolute least favorite gardening task of all gardening tasks, because it requires bringing plants in and out for at least a week, if not two, both morning and night. My goodness, it feels so good to be outside doing gardening work. This one has some grass in it here, and then some lamb's quarters, which are actually edible, but also spread like crazy everywhere when they have a chance to seed. So pull all those out. Grass everywhere in it. Oh my goodness. Look at these pretty celeries. Aren't they beautiful? They're quickly becoming one of my favorite plants to grow. They take a long time, so I seeded these back at the end of February or so. They take a couple of weeks to germinate, and then they're very slow growing, but once they get out into the garden, they really take off and look beautiful in the garden, taste delicious, all the good things. Oh my gosh, I have all my herbs I need to get out here too. We have parsley, so pretty. I think I need to buy some more trays. Look at that oregano. Isn't that gorgeous? Beautiful. Little baby lavender. Oh, it smells so good. A little chamomile there. I have taken to starting my chamomile a little bit later because they actually do grow quite quickly. 1 year, I think 2 or 3 years ago, I started them in February and they were fully flowering this time of year. Do you guys remember back to the beginning or mid-March or so, and I was down in my grow room despairing about how sad my seedlings looked? And just let this be an encouragement. If yours are currently looking sad, if you can get them into some good soil and give them a little bit of fertilizer. I don't normally fertilize my seedlings, but this year the soil was so not great that I did use this. So all I did was take a little pinch of it and sprinkle it on the surface of the soil of all the plants that were looking really sad. And they look absolutely fabulous now. Look at that basil. Like, it's looking and smelling so good. It's so encouraging to have everything looking so beautiful. And because I waited this year to plant my tomatoes, because it was so cold, my tomato seedlings are a little bit smaller than they normally are this time of year. And because we get such cold evenings in August, I really like to try to get my tomato seedlings an earlier start on this end of the season so I don't end up with a whole bunch of green tomatoes in August. And because I wasn't able to do that this year, and then combined with the poor soil, I was concerned that my tomato seedlings were just not going to be great. And then by the time I got them in the greenhouse, they weren't going to have enough time to mature their fruit and all of that. But they have taken off so beautifully since getting them all potted up that I'm feeling renewed hope. I always get questions about these paper pots whenever I do a video from anyone that is new to my channel. So I do have a video where I talk about them and I show you how to make them. And I'll make sure I put a link to that for you because they are a very inexpensive way of having seedling pots and not having to use plastic. I also do get lots of questions about whether I'm worried about like the toxins in the ink. I've done research into it, and all ink that's used on newsprint is a soy-based ink, which of course has its own issues. But for me, I don't know that it's any worse than using plastic, really, and it is certainly more affordable and it's biodegradable. So I feel like we can only do what we can do, right? The best we can do with the resources that we have available to us. And for me right now, these paper pots are working for me fabulously. Okay, I need to get the rest of these seedlings put outside, and then I think we'll go up and get the sheep pen, take that out. I haven't even seen it. Dan just came home with it, and see how easy that is to get set up. We had a mama, she's a first-time mama over here, and she hatched out one little chick. And I've never seen that happen before. Normally they'll have at least 10. But she's managed to keep this little one alive for the last 4 or 5 days, which is pretty awesome. And absolutely adorable. Barred rocks are my fave. These are our little sheep. You guys excited to come outside? They do have an outdoor pen, but it doesn't take long for them to clear the grass out of it. So we really want to be able to move them around so that they can have lots of fresh grass every day. Right, girls? Okay, so this is the net system that we got. So we just got this from our local feed store, but I'm really happy with the quality of this. Like, it looks pretty sturdy. So I have a charger right over here. So I think where we'll set this up initially is right in this little area here. This is actually a huge net. Can't wait to see what it looks like when it's fully spread out. The other thing that I love about this is the fact that it's green. So it kind of looks nice. So I'm going to run it along the edge of the road up here and then down, and we'll see how big of an area we can make. And of course I unraveled it the wrong way, so the end that I have to hook up to the charger is way down there. I am going to run the fence along so that there is a bit of an alleyway going up to the chicken run and the door of the chicken coop, because I have grain in the chicken coop and I don't want to risk the sheep getting in there and eating it, because if they eat it and they gorge on it, they could get bloat and get very sick or even possibly die. So want to protect them from that. There is a couple of spots where it's a little bit loose, so I'm going to add an extra plastic post. I have lots of hot wire posts, and just to give it a little bit more stability. And then I have to go around and peg it all in so that there's nowhere that it can lift up. There's not enough pegs for everyone, and it didn't come with instructions, so I'll just stick them in wherever it seems appropriate. Before we put the sheep in here, we do need to come up with a little covering of some sort. I have an idea for something a little bit more permanent, but temporarily I think I might buy, when I go into town, one of those little like arbor type things, and just take the legs down so it's about that high off the ground so that they can have somewhere to get in out of the hot sunshine. But I think they're going to be really happy in here, and I'm really happy with the way it looks. It's not nearly the eyesore that I was expecting it to be. So I do want to get another pen exactly like this for my meat birds. Normally I have my meat birds in a tractor that's pretty small and we just move it all the time. But this will make it a lot easier if we put the covered tractor in here and open the door during the day and have this much space for them to pasture on. We'll probably only need to move them once a week, and we'll be able to fertilize some different areas of our pasture, which is awesome. I'm not quite sure how to hook this up to the charger over there, so Dan's gonna come down and give me a hand. He and Donovan are just up in the cabin right now, or we're just up in the cabin. They're on their way down here now to make a plan for finishing it. These are just the little caps for the top of this, but I'm not really sure. And then these are this is the hot wire.
I think you just crimp them on.
Oh, shoot.
Not blocking the gate.
Oh, that's a good idea. I think so. Yeah. But what about this though? This is my not entirely sure what the deal is with that. Is it supposed to just click together? I don't know. Would it make sense from a circuit perspective to have these connected?
It should work anyway.
Good.
Oh, I think you got it there.
Look at me go.
Super easy.
Okay. So this is going to be the gate that I let them in and out of. So I just need to make sure that that's easy to move here. I know. Okay, so there's a slight flaw in this system, and that's that these green parts that the electricity is running through, can you hear that snapping? It's because it's touching the ground, and the green parts aren't supposed to be touching the ground. Hey honey, could you run over there and grab me a couple of those posts, the black posts there? I'm gonna see if I can just put in some extra posts and hold that up off the ground. I think I can. I tried to, you can try to pull it tighter from that corner, but every time I pulled it, it would tighten on the top but not be tight on the bottom because it's on a hill and there's only about that long. Yeah, I think I'm gonna need a couple more at least. You can unplug that for me again. So these are a good height for doing this. Thank you. This is gonna work. I don't think that's hitting there, so I'll go around and check the rest of it. It's definitely hitting up here. Woo! It just needs, yeah, I think this would have been a better design had it had an extra post in between, but since I have the posts, it's not such a big deal, and we can hold it up off the ground. So I think what we'll do now is I'll take you down to the barn and show you what's happening with the meat bird setup. And then we're gonna go inside and have a lunch break, and then we'll head to town together. All the garden work that I was planning on doing, I think I'm actually gonna wait and do that tomorrow because it's supposed to be cloudy tomorrow, instead of working out and digging in the garden when it is just about 30 degrees outside. Okay, so before we head inside, let's go down and I'll show you the chicken coop situation. And oh, let's check out the baby bunnies first. Oh, she's pulled out a whole bunch more fur to cover them up. What a good mama. Oh, look at them. Aren't they sweet? Some light colored ones, a black one. Look at that cutie. So sweet. I love heat, but I have not acclimatized to it at all. We went from sweaters and toques to t-shirts and sunglasses in a matter of days. This is our meat bird setup. So we use one of these sprout boxes like I have in my garden. Works amazingly as a brooder. I love it. And we have a couple of inches of wood chips or wood shavings in there. Our water over here. We're gonna move these lights out a little bit so they're more like this, because one of the issues you can have if you put it up against the side of the pen like this is that the birds will bunch in here to get warm and suffocate each other. So we'll just move these lights out, and other than that, looks great. The only place that I use heat lights is in this application when it is for meat chicks, because they're actually a big fire hazard. I have a screen, I should have showed you that when we were down there, but it's chicken wire, like a board frame, and I put the lights so they're sitting on kind of on top of that so they can't fall down into the wood shavings and cause a fire. Dan and I built a brooder box, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years ago now. And that's just a box that kind of mimics a mother chicken, and then the little chicks can get in underneath, and there's heat lights in there. But honestly, the brooder box actually worried me more as far as a fire hazard, because the lights were so close to where the chicks were and where they were kicking up all of the sawdust and the dust. So I just try to be as safe as I can with them. The nice thing is, within about 3 weeks, especially if this weather continues to be beautiful like this, they're gonna be outside anyway. All right, we are back from town now with some very hot chicks. When I picked them up from the feed store, they said that they had actually had to revive a lot of the chicks that came in today because it was so hot and the chicks were overheating. So I've kept the air conditioning cranked in my vehicle, and we're gonna go get them taken out. All right. Oh, there's Mama with her one lone baby. Seriously, the cutest thing. Ready? Look at all those cutie pies. Look at them. Okay, we're gonna get these guys out, get them a drink. So remember to put them in by the water first, hon.
Yeah. It's not wanting to.
Very hungry little birds. But the good news is they're all looking great. Super robust and healthy. So we have 100 plus a few. They always send a couple of extras. It's pretty normal to lose a few in the first week. The girls are setting up a mini brooder in the house. We just have 10 turkeys, and turkeys generally are not quite as hardy as meat birds are. And I always like to keep them up in the house for at least the first 5 days until they get a little bit hardier, and then they'll move outside to the main brooder. I had full intentions of being out in the garden all day. I was outside for a lot of the day, but I didn't actually get any work done in the garden. So I think what I'm gonna do is plan my garden work for tomorrow, because it is clouding over and it's going to make it much easier to work outside when it is not blazing hot like it is today. Okay, let's see how the hardening off process is going. We're getting a little bit of direct sunlight right now. It's pretty normal for onions to fade out a little bit when they first get exposed to natural light, but that's okay. These guys are looking good, and these guys are looking thirsty. I got all my pickling cucumbers and my squash planted, and we have pickling cucumbers coming up, also looking thirsty. Every single one of these guys popped out today. We have some of the bigger squashes. You can see that little one popping out there. So I think I'm gonna wait and water tomorrow morning instead of tonight. We'll see, does anybody really need it? You know what, it is starting to cool off a little bit. Maybe I will get a little bit of work done. Oh, check this out. These are red beard onions that I left in the ground to overwinter, and they are growing all of this gorgeous green onion top. So I'm gonna cut all these off and freeze dry them for winter. Awesome addition to soup. And then over here, this made me really happy. This is sage, and sage does not normally overwinter very well here, but it looks like it did this year, which is awesome. Some oregano over there that overwintered as well. The time did not, sadly, but I'm happy about this because I planted some beginning of March and they just did not come up, did not germinate. So I actually ended up throwing in some other seeds into the same pot, and then 2 weeks later, the sage popped up. As you can see though, it is quite little. Healthy enough looking though, that's good. So I'm happy to have some extra sage. I love sage. The other thing that I am going to start freeze drying right away are the chives, which are always the first greens up. I'm gonna cut these right down to the ground and put this whole entire thing into the freeze dryer. You know what, for the sake of it, since I'm out here and I don't think I'm going to actually do any work in the garden, I think I am going to harvest all of these greens and get them put into the freeze dryer. Scissors. I usually keep scissors in here to keep my onions trimmed. Well, they're growing at this stage, but I do not see them anywhere. Well, I do have some kid scissors, so I guess that'll have to do. Nice bucket of greens. Gonna be harvesting rhubarb soon. Woohoo! I love rhubarb and it's the first thing that I usually can each year. Although this year I think I am going to pressure can up some of the potatoes left in the root cellar because they're still in really good condition. So here's our little turkey babies. These ones here are bronze orlop, and then these ones are Thomas White. I actually prefer the white ones, but my kids begged me to get these guys because they're so cute. So I got a few of them. And it looks like they sent me one extra of each, which is awesome. You little cuties. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut off all my bad bits here and go through here and pull out any grass because I'm sure I got some grass in here too. Honestly, this is so exciting to be starting with preservation already. I think this may be the earliest that I have ever started. It feels fabulous. I love food preservation so much. So now I am just going to chop these up. So these are chives, so I'm going to do these fairly small.
Got it clean.
Awesome, that's great.
And I got a jar for it.
Man, I have never had my eyes burned from chives before. Holy moly. Ugh. Yes, there is another small one.
Oh, I know where one is. Garden.
Yes, yes, the little yellow one.
It's actually in front of the shed.
Normally I would pre-freeze these, but I am not going to do that. I'm just going to pop them right in to the freeze dryer and then put the rest of these on a couple of other trays, and then I'll freeze those for when this batch is done. I also have all of these eggs, this big huge thing of eggs, that I need to freeze dry too. My freeze dryer room has been turned into a workshop for our renovations. Hey, let me show you where they're at. So they have the drywall on the roof, they have the stairs, and the laundry room area all boarded. So this is a special kind of board that's used for wet areas. So the entire bathroom is done in it and the laundry room as well. Good morning, everybody. We're actually on to the next, 2 days later since I filmed that video. But the reason I decided to wait to finish it is because I wanted to show you our finished freeze-dried herbs. So these are the spring onions, and this is how much I got from 3 trays. And then these are the chives. I'm super happy with them. They taste so fresh, and the spring onions are actually yummy enough because they're quite sweet just to snack on. Both Dan and I really liked these. I am just storing them in jars because I plan to use them within 12 months. They will be down in my pantry where it's nice and dark and cool. If I was going to do long-term storage with these, I would put them into Mylar, but all of the herbs that I'll be freeze drying this summer will all be for next winter when we don't have access to fresh herbs. I am super excited about this, and the texture, flavor, and the way they rehydrate is absolutely fabulous. On a little update on the meat chicks and the turkeys, we have not lost a single one, which is unbelievable. Normally within the first 48 hours, I'll usually lose at least 1 or 2 meat chicks. That's fairly common when you have a large number like we have. And the turkeys are also doing fabulous. We still have all 12 of them, which is wonderful. I do plan on getting another one of those pens, like the sheep pen that we got, to put the turkeys out in as well. I really like that. Besides the kind of issue with being able to having to have the extra peg in it, it's actually pretty great. I don't have the sheep out there yet, although I plan to move them out there today. Dan and I still haven't figured out what we're going to do for a shelter. We're going to walk around the property today and see if we can salvage any materials, because as you know, building materials are very expensive right now. And I did look at one of those like arbor type things that you can just buy from Canadian Tire, or at least in Canada, and they were $500 or more. And I really don't want to spend that much, especially on something that's not going to last for a really, really long time. So if you have any ideas for what we could use for a shelter for that pen, definitely let me know. I'm happy today because it is overcast and cool outside today, and there is no wind. We haven't been able to do any of our spring burning because it's been so incredibly windy and really dry here. So we're going to get that done today and do a whole bunch of yard cleanup, which I'm looking forward to because it's just always really messy once the snow melts and all of that. And like I said, we haven't had a chance to do the cleanup. So we're going to do that. Looking forward to that. Probably have a big bonfire and roast some hot dogs or something. So I am going to get onto the day today. I hope that you guys have a fabulous day, and I'll see you again next week. Bye.